Today is Monday, August the 4th, 2025. This is the 47 Daily Podcast. My name is Mark Kaye. President Donald Trump loves Sydney Sweeney's ad. At least I think that's what who doesn't love Sydney Sweeney's ad? He was asked by a reporter about it after finding out she was a registered Republican. Here's what he said.
She's a registered Republican? Oh, now I love her ad. Is that right? Is Sydney Sweeney? You'd be surprised at how many people are Republicans. That's what I wouldn't have known, but I'm glad you told me that. If Sydney Sweeney is a registered Republican, I think her ad is fantastic.
I'll be honest with you, the first couple times I heard that, I was like, he said ad, right? Ad, is that what we're talking about? Yeah, but that's exactly right. Sydney Sweeney, everybody loves Sydney Sweeney, and now they love her even more that she's a registered Republican. Well, of course, except for the lunatics on the left, but that's a story for another day. The Sydney Sweeney ad from American Eagle Outfitters has now made it to President Donald Trump's press conference, standing outside of Marine One on the tarmac this weekend. Really, really fantastic. And congratulations to Sydney Sweeney, American Eagle, and President Donald, and the rest of us, because it's exciting that we can have beautiful women in advertising again and not be made to feel guilty or lesser than. Although I don't think any of us listening ever did feel guilty or lesser than. But it was an amazing weekend, a lot of great stuff going on. And President Donald Trump stood on the tarmac and talked to the reporters and recapped it all. And one of the biggest events was somebody that he fired.
We had a very good weekend in many respects. We're seeing phenomenal numbers in terms of the business we do with other countries and the business we do within our own country. I mean, really phenomenal numbers. We'll be announcing a new statistician sometime over the next 3-4 days. We had no confidence. I mean, the numbers were ridiculous, what she announced, but that was just one negative number. All of the numbers seem to be great. And so we'll see how that comes out. And if you remember, just before the election, this woman came out with these phenomenal numbers on Biden's economy. Phenomenal numbers. And then right after the election, they announced that those numbers were wrong. And that's what they did the other day. So it's a scam, in my opinion. My opinion is it's just additional scam.
Additional scam, not just a scam, but an additional scam. And he's talking about Erica McFartner, I think is her name. It doesn't matter. She's now nobody cares who she is, but she was one of the least reliable statisticians. And as President Donald Trump pointed out there, her numbers seem to be important or beneficial when they benefited Joe Biden and the Democrats, and they seem to be very negative when they benefited Donald Trump or the Republicans. And Kevin Hassert was asked about this on the Sunday shows, and here's what he said.
The fact is that when the data are unreliable, when they keep being revised all over the place, then there are going to be people that wonder if there's a partisan pattern in the data. And so if you look back to just a year ago, for example, there was another massive revision from the BLS, almost a million jobs down, that said that the Joe Biden jobs record was a lot worse than people thought. But we didn't get the downward revision until after Joe Biden had dropped out. And so once again, it made people think, what are they doing? I got to tell you that if I were running the BLS, I don't aspire to. If I were running the BLS and I had the biggest downward revision in 50 years, I would have a really, really detailed report explaining why it happened so that everybody really trusted the data. We had this move, that move, that move. We had a bunch of people get their responses in late or something like that. But instead, they have this little black box that moves the numbers around and makes people wonder, sometimes with partisan patterns. And so I think what we need is a fresh set of eyes at the BLS, somebody who can clean this thing up. And again, going back to 2015, when I was the keynoter along with Alan Greenspan, and how to modernize this place, I worried about how the changing economy, the modern economy, was going to move faster than their ability to measure, and urged Congress to give them a lot more money so that they could make these numbers better. And I think now I'm being kind of proven true that it's really the numbers are not keeping up with the economy.
Yeah, where's the report? Where's the information? Where is it? Where's the substantiation to those kinds of numbers? Because the economy is booming. The economy is better than it ever has been before. The jobs report should reflect that, but it doesn't. And Donald Trump said that's a partisan political hack. let's get rid of her and see what happens. Now, the tariff revenue that keeps coming in is clearly a sign or an indicator that President Donald Trump's economic policy is beneficial to all Americans, because all Americans are benefiting from President Donald Trump's policies and his tariffs. The Jameson Greer, who's the international trade representative, he was on the Sunday shows as well, and he was discussing exactly how Donald Trump's tariff plans are bringing countries to the table, helping to renegotiate our trade deals, make it more fair for America and Americans doing business worldwide, and also paying down the debt, making sure that we have money to spend and that we're spending it wisely.
Most countries in the world, they just have a tariff assigned to them, right? Whether it's
it'll be the 10% or 15%.
10 or 15 or the higher level tariff. Because again, when the president is looking at this, he looks at potential deals, and we bring him potential concessions from countries and the things they might want to do. And he compares that to the potential tariff that might be applied to try to get that deficit down. And then talking to his advisors, he makes a call on this. And, sometimes a country will come back and make additional concessions that make it more appropriate. He's trying to get at the deficit. He's trying to reshore manufacturing.
He's trying to get at the deficit. He's trying to reshore manufacturing. Donald Trump is doing everything he can to make sure that America is the greatest, richest, most powerful country in the world. And that means paying down the debt. And by bringing in tariff revenue, he can pay down the deficit. And that's exactly what he's trying to do, because he knows that a strong economy makes for a strong America, and a strong America makes for a strong world. And that America is a Christian, conservative, very moral country that is going to have the best interest of all mankind at heart. But we've got to make sure that our table is set and that our affairs are in order, and that we are doing everything we need to do economically to sustain our incredible greatness.
Well, we're going to pay down debt. We have a lot of money coming in, much more money than the country's ever seen, by hundreds of billions of dollars. And there could be a distribution or dividend to the people of our country. I would say for people that would be middle-income people and lower-income people, we could do a dividend. But one of the things we're going to be doing is reducing debt. But we have hundreds of billions of dollars pouring into our country now. We should have done this many years ago. And I did it in my first term with China. We didn't get to the rest because COVID hit. And you couldn't really go to France and Spain and Italy and say, let's start talking about some tariffs. But China was paying us hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs, and we did it then. And then Biden screwed it all up. He screwed everything he touched. He screwed up.
Yeah, and that's Biden screwed it all up, but that's okay, because now we're back and we're fixing it. We're doing tariff deals. We're doing trade deals with the countries rapid fire. And of course, the billions of dollars coming into the United States of America will be working to pay down the debt. But that's not all, because Donald Trump doesn't rest on his laurels. Once he has one big, massive, successful event, like, for example, the One Big Beautiful Bill, he turned around and he went to work on trade deals with the EU and with Japan and with Indonesia and now with China. And then he landed the big EU deal. He's like, all right, what are we going to do next? The next up is something that is of extreme importance to all Americans.
The next big move is going to be the price of drugs. Because you could buy something in London or in Germany, someplace in Germany or many countries where it's 1/10, 1/3, 1/4, but sometimes 1/10 the price of what it costs to buy it in New York or some other place. And we're not doing that anymore. We're not allowing that anymore. That started many years ago when people were asleep at the wheel in this country, and they allowed that to happen, and I'm stopping it.
Yeah, no more of the drug prices being astronomical. No more of the drug prices being out of reach for anybody. Donald Trump says he wants the same deals that every other country gets, and we haven't been getting them, even though we make a lot of these drugs here.
We're going favored nations. We want the same price as Europe gets. We want the same price as other country gets. And over the years, 25, 30 years ago, it started where they were charging us much more. And I put an end to it, with the letter that you saw last week. So I think that's going to be a point. I don't know how anybody could win an election if they're on the other side of that issue. So we'll be dropping drug prices. It'll start over the next 2 to 3 months by 1,200, 1,300, and even 1,400% and 500%, but not just 50% or 25%, which normally would be a lot, because the rest of the world pays much less for the identical drug. and we're going to be paying the same thing. We're going to have a favored nations. We will pay as low as the lowest nation in the world.
That is something that is going to put a lot of money back in Americans' pockets. That is something that is going to make a lot of Americans happy. And that is something that is going to make a lot of Americans healthy again, because that is all part of President Donald Trump's promise to make America great, rich, strong, healthy, all those things in the next 4 years and beyond. He's setting us up for long-term success. He's also trying to end the wars and keep the peace around the world, not just in the Middle East, but also in Russia and Ukraine. And right before the weekend, he announced that he was dispatching nuclear submarines to the areas around Russia in preparation for what could be an increased threat. Medvedev, the former Russian president, was making some very strong statements about the United States of America and military intervention and Russia's reaction to any intervention by the United States of America. And Donald Trump said, look, if you're going to talk like that, you got to back it up. So he sent military subs to the area, and the media is wondering exactly where they are.
On Russia, Mr. President, can you say, have those nuclear submarines been deployed yet to face Russia?
I've already put out a statement, and the answer is they are in the region, where they have to be.
Yeah, we're not going to tell you exactly where. That kind of goes against the whole notion of military planning and the art of surprise. The media always wants to know everything about Donald Trump's military involvement and military planning, but that's not always. You don't get to know that. They also asked about Russia avoiding sanctions, because Donald Trump has placed massive sanctions on Russia. Gave him a 10-day window last week.
You know what Steve Witkoff's message will be to the Russians? Is there anything they can do to avoid sanctions at this point?
Yeah, get a deal where people stop getting killed. They had a number that just came out that a tremendous number of Russian soldiers are being killed. And likewise, Ukraine, a lower number, but still thousands and thousands of people. And now we're adding towns where they're being hit by missiles. So it's a lot of people being killed in that ridiculous war. And, we stopped a lot of countries from war, India and Pakistan. We stopped a lot of countries. And we're going to get that one stopped, too. Somehow we're going to get that one stopped. That's a really horrible war. You heard about Cambodia and Thailand. We got that one done. We got the Congo, which was going on for 31 years. Rwanda, that one's done. We stopped a lot of wars. This is the one we seem to be, this should be the easiest to stop, and it's not. I mean, Rwanda and Congo were going on 31 years when I got it stopped. 8 million people dead, at least. That's what they have, but I think the number is much higher. And the leaders of each country, Rwanda and the Congo, they were great. They were great, and they wanted it stopped. 31 years it went on. We stopped a lot of wars. Serbia, Kosovo was going to be happening, and I don't believe it will now, so we stopped that one too.
Yeah, working on Russia, Ukraine, Donald Trump it will get it done, whether it's choking off the Russian oil supply, which he's doing with these EU trade deals and everything else, and with India now, and demanding that they no longer purchase massive billions of $750 billion worth of energy is a lot of energy. And if the EU is not purchasing that from Russia and purchasing it from the United States of America, that's going to put a real dent into their income. And when you don't have as much money, you can't buy as many weapons as you used to from China to go fight in Ukraine. So choking off the Russian supply of military equipment and money to buy military equipment is part of Donald Trump's plan to do that. It's a little slower, takes a little bit longer, but it is also effective, as we saw with Iran. And then there's Gaza, which is one of these weird. The story with Gaza and the humanitarian aid and the relief to Gaza is one of those stories that the media just can't figure out how to spin against President Donald Trump, because Donald Trump is the only person who is doing anything to help the starving children in Gaza. And Hamas, which typically is, the media has been a friend to, is the one that's stopping the food and the supplies getting to the people who desperately need it. And Donald Trump's like, look, we're doing everything we possibly can. We're the only ones.
Had more of an update to give us on Gaza, on the Gaza Strip. Can you give us any?
Only we want the people fed. And we're the only country that's really doing that. We're putting up money to get the people fed. And Steve Witkoff is doing a great job. And we want Israel to get them fed. We're giving some pretty big contributions, basically to purchase food so the people can be fed. We don't want people going hungry, and we don't want people to starve. And there's some bad things happening.
And we want people fed, and we're getting them the food, and we're going to have to figure out a way to make sure that Hamas does not interfere with that process. And I'm pretty sure Donald Trump will be able to figure out a way for people not to interfere with the process of helping young, starving children in Gaza, because that's exactly what he wants to do. On the home front, when we talk about the DOJ and investigations, there's continued interest in the Russiagate scandal and the new information that Tulsi Gabbard, the DNI, has released to the Department of Justice. John Radcliffe, CIA director, also releasing reports to the Department of Justice, securing prosecutions or recommending prosecutions and indictments for some of the heavy hitters in Barack Obama's orbit, including Hillary Clinton and James Comey and others. And Stephen Miller was talking about how the Russia collusion scandal, in addition to being, treason and an attempted coup d'etat against the United States, which is really bad, also ate up valuable resources that could have been used for other investigations.
The Russia collusion hoax against President Trump remains the single greatest hoax and the greatest assault on our democracy in the history of this country. There's no comparison. There's no parallel to anything else. It was a coup. And I'm using that term literally. It was a coup to overthrow a democratically elected government, a coup carried out by the intelligence apparatus of this country, by the deep state, by Hillary Clinton and the Democrat Party. The new information that has been revealed by the Director of National Intelligence and by the FBI eliminates any scintilla of doubt about the intention, the premeditation, the planning and orchestration of this conspiracy. It meets all of the criminal elements of a seditious conspiracy against the United States. It meets the criminal elements of an insurrection. It meets the criminal elements of a conspiracy against the government and the criminal elements of a conspiracy to deprive citizens of their civil rights under color of law. One egregious felony after another. And because it is a conspiracy, as demonstrated by the forethought of realizing and documenting that they understood that this was fake from the beginning, meeting the mens rea standard in law. Because of that, because it is a conspiracy, every single individual actor is now part of that conspiracy. So that includes Brennan and Clapper and Comey and Hillary and Schiff and everybody else who knowingly and willfully perpetrated this plot, this coup, this conspiracy, this scheme against President Trump and the government of the United States. And now is the time and the hour and the moment for accountability so that we can reclaim this democracy, Maria.
It seems like Stephen Miller has been tasked with helping the Department of Justice, or at least pushing the Russian collusion colluders into a sticky court battle, a very, I guess you would say, a very tumultuous investigation by the House of Representatives, and hopefully some kind of criminal action. We're going to be following that along with a whole bunch of other stories, because there's a whole bunch of other stories we want to follow. And we do that every single day on our second daily podcast called Mark Kaye Saves the Republic. It's a long form commentary interview podcast, more of the news of the day, and you can get it for free. You can watch live when we live stream at 1 p.m. Or if you prefer, you can also download it on any of your favorite podcast platforms. Just go to markkaye.com, markkaye.com, to find out where you can listen to Mark Kaye Saves the Republic. Download, subscribe, listen, and enjoy.